everybody, I'm Blackstone and welcome to my banner. In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to use cardstock to create one of these birthday banners. Now, you will notice that some stuff is popping off. Whatever you do, don't use Dollar Tree double-sided tape. That's what I used, and let me tell you, not a big fan. The pieces that I did with the Target tape, because I actually didn't have much of it, are holding, but the ones that I used with Dollar Tree tape are not holding at all. But you can also use glue for this, which is really nice. So I would recommend either glue or not Dollar Tree double-sided tape. I'll link everything that I used for this project down below in case you want to make one too. But we're really just going to show you how you can design this using a template. We're going to use some fun fonts. I'm going to show you how to make some really large cuts with cardstock with your Cricut, because you are going to need to kind of splice this apart because these are really large designs. Be sure that you're subscribed here on YouTube. That way you don't miss out on any of the fun, crafty content we have coming. Now let's head over to Cricut Design Space before some of these fall off, and I'm going to show you how to design this because it is a lot of fun.
For those of us that cannot paint, like myself, we are going to make a really fun birthday banner using Cricut Design Space and some cardstock and glue. It's a lot easier than you think, and honestly, it's super fun, and it's one of the things that's going to make a little less stressful if you're somebody who just can't paint or is too much of a perfectionist to paint. And I think that's part of my problem. So let me show you how to do this. So our paper that we ordered is 17.8 inches tall. And then you can make the width anything that you want, because I have like 120 or 100, like 1,200 feet. I don't know. It is a big roll. So what we'll do first is we're going to create a template. And to do a template, what I'm going to use is shapes, and I'm going to use a square. Now, I do want to use the square that has the sharper corners, just because my paper is going to have sharp corners. We need to resize our template here. So we need to decide what size you're going to make your banner. So like I said, we know that it's 17.8 inches high. So what we'll do is we're going to create this template by unlocking our sizing or our scale. And right here in the middle is the lock button. You're going to click on that. So I'm going to change the height to 17.8, and I'm going to make sure it takes all my numbers. And once I have that, I can, from here, decide how wide I want my banner. So maybe you know that you have a certain space on your wall, or you know that you've got like a banner holder you're going to use. You can make this really any size that you want to. But for this, I'm going to make it 24 inches. Maybe I'm going to make it maybe I'll do 30, just because I think I want it to be more rectangular. So that's going to give me the rectangular look. Now, in order to fit the whole thing onto Cricut Design Space, you will want to zoom out. So I just used the little buttons down here, and you can see at 75, it's still not showing me all of our space. So I'm just going to zoom out to 50%, and that's going to give us our entire banner to work with. Now, there's a couple ways that you can use this template. The first way is you can use the guide option. This is not my favorite. I just don't love just a red line on my page. It just, for me, makes it kind of hard to see, and I just can't visualize it the way that I like. So I want to change it instead from a guide. I'm going to keep it as a basic cut. Now you're going to notice here, it's being a little bit weird. Sometimes it does that. If it does, open your layers panel and select your design. I'm going to just change this to like brown, and I might make it a little bit lighter brown just because that's the color of our paper. So it'll help us visualize a little bit better. So I'm going to go under advanced here, and I'm just going to kind of make it a little bit lighter just so it mimics that color of the paper just a little bit more. That way, again, you can really visualize the jazzed up design that you're looking for. Now, we're going to be using a lot of Cricut Design Space images for this, but you can upload your own images as well. And then keeping in mind that we're going to use some different types of cardstock to really make this extra special. Now, what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go under images, and I want to search for banners. And you can see that I have searched a little bit. I kind of wanted to make sure that we had some images that I liked to use. So I'm going to search for the word banner. Now, the type of banner I want is more of like that pennant style, where it's like the triangles hang down. So sort of like this, but this isn't quite the one I'm going to go for. So I'm just going to scroll and look for one that I like. Now, you can use any style that you want, whatever you want it to look like. You can use something like this if you want to have, oops, I didn't want to resize it like that. But if you want to have like these types of style, you can do that. You do whatever you like. It's up to you. I'm going to pull a couple different ones in so that we can kind of play with the sizing on them and just see if we find one that really fits the vibes. All right, I've pulled a couple of them in just to sort of see what they look like, kind of play with them, figure out how I want this banner to look. So I've got some that are like more like a traditional look. I've got these ones that I thought could be cute if we just did them like in the corner. And then I found this one that I thought was just fun. I just wanted to show it to you, just to show you that you could really kind of use whatever. It's not really the vibe that we're going for, but I do think that one was worth showing you just because I think it's cute. But now what we can do is sort of play around and figure out which one we like. Now this one just is not quite the vibe. I'm going for more of just like a general birthday vibe, but this one could be really pretty for like a princess theme or an under the sea theme. So there's a lot of ways that you could do that one. And I just think it would be really fun, but it's just not quite the vibe. So I'm kind of between like this one and this one. Now what you want to do is figure out, okay, if you're going to use this, how big do you want this to be on your banner? So I probably am going to need more than one of these to go across. So I can just duplicate it and I can just kind of push them across. And maybe I'm going to do 3 across, so I'll need to resize them down a little bit. And you can see how big they are just by looking at the sizing here, but you can also kind of visualize them on your banner. Now I'm going to size them down a bit just to see how big they would be if I just strung them so they went right across the top. So if I just had them across the top, they're about 3 inches, maybe a little less than 3 inches in height. So what I like to do is I have a little measuring tape or ruler. I usually have that sitting nearby for me so that it helps me see how big that might actually be to my eyes. Because sometimes seeing it here, it might look too small or too big. I think this one's a little bit too small. I do think it's cute, but I just think it's not, again, quite what we're going for. So I'm going to go ahead and just delete those. This is kind of more the vibe I want. And I just don't know if this is too big as one or if I could do it as 2. But what I want to point out to you is I'm going to have to angle this a little bit because it is a little bit too high on one end. So if you want to angle it so that it looks a little bit better, you can do that. But you'll kind of need to play with this one a bit and just see if you can get it to work the way you want it. Another option is you can always flip it so that this is more the center, so that if you go to make this, that little edge will kind of work with the corners. So I think this one might be the way I want to go. So I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this and I'm going to flip this one so that the reds are touching. I'm not worried about the colors. I'm going to change the colors up later, but I'm just going to kind of mess with the colors later because I want it to be in a rainbow theme and I want it to go in rainbow order. So it does not matter what it looks like on the screen, but I do think that's pretty cute. And then these are going to be a little bit bigger and I think they're going to take up a little more of the space that I was talking about. Now we're going to address the fact that those are too big at this point, but I also want to show you, if I look at this, you're going to see that you have these different pieces. So here we have like this big banner piece, and then you have all of your different pennants. Now, again, we're going to cut the pennants in different colors and we'll mess with that later once we kind of get everything set up. But I'm just sort of getting everything onto the screen here so that we can decide how we want this to look. But I think this one is like the banner I want to go with. The next thing I want to add is some text, and I want it just to say happy birthday. And again, you can add whatever text you want. You can do anything, graduation parties, retirement parties. I'm just here having a party because I wanted a cake parties, whatever you want to do. But I'm going to add some text to this. And like I said, we're going to do happy birthday. So I think I'm going to do happy and birthday as 2 separate text boxes so that I can work with them a little bit differently. I can stretch them, I can size them, and we can get everything to fit the way we want it to. I'm going to go under my fonts and I'm going to choose a different font, and I'm going to go under my system fonts. And what's really fun about this is you can use any font that you want to. So let's make this a little bit bigger just so we can get a good look at how it's going to look when it's a bit larger. And you can choose any font you want to. Now you can use wordmark.it to preview your fonts, but keep in mind that's only going to show you 400 fonts. So if you have more than that, it may not be your best choice. But you can choose a fun font like this where it's every single letter. You can choose a script font. You really can choose whatever you want to choose. There are so many really cute options out there, and I'll link where I get all my fonts, which is Creative Fabrica. You can sign up with them and it's $3.99 a month, and it's honestly the absolute best. Now I do want to use something that's pretty easy to read, but I also want it to look cutesy and fun. So we're going to go ahead and kind of scroll through. I'm going to find a couple ideas and see which one I like best. I think this berry notes is what I want to do, and I think it's really cute. Now for this, I think I want to do this in white. So again, just to help you visualize, it's really fun to just make it the right color, and we can again mess with other colors as we go. But let's get this set out here. And all I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to duplicate this text box and then type in the word birthday. Now I do want to point out that you will have a separate dot that you can just glue on. So don't worry about that being anything that's going to be like in the way. Now, I will say here is what's nice too about Cricut Design Space. They do have this centering little red line, and that'll tell you when you're centered with your design with your text. So if I just want to make sure that I'm really centered here, and then I want to get this centered, and then kind of maybe play with where its placement is. Maybe I don't want it centered. Maybe I want to kind of dip it into there. Whatever you want to do with this is totally fine and up to you. Maybe you decide, you know what, maybe this isn't the right font. Maybe I don't like it. Let's go look for a new font. Here in Creative Fabrica, they've got billions of things, but I'm going to go to the font and I want to go to script fonts because I do know that I want it to be a script font. So what's fun here is I can kind of look through and see if there's anything that looks like it's maybe a little bit more like the vibe that I'm going for, because I just don't see anything that I love right now in my selections. So let me scroll through, find something, and I'm going to show you how to install a font. Here in Creative Fabrica, they've got billions of things, but I'm going to go to the font and I want to go to script fonts because I do know that I want it to be a script font. So what's fun here is I can kind of look through and see if there's anything that looks like it's maybe a little bit more like the vibe that I'm going for, because I just don't see anything that I love right now in my selections. So let me scroll through, find something, and I'm going to show you how to install a font. I found this really cute one called Angela Flower that I thought would work. So we're going to download this. And when you click download, it's going to open up your folders and ask you where you want to save this. So for me, I'm going to save it into my fonts folder, which is all of my fonts on my computer, and click save. Now you're going to open up the folder that you just downloaded, and this is a zipped or compressed folder, which means that we need to extract the file in order to install this on our computer. You don't upload this into Design Space, you install it on your computer. So what I'm going to do is click extract all and then click extract. Now what I'm going to do next is right click on the font, which is the open type font file, go to show more options and click install for all users. It's going to install this so that I'm able to use it across my entire computer. Now we do need to close Design Space, so let's go ahead and go save our project. I'm going to go ahead and save this, and we're going to save this as birthday banner. And you need to close Design Space and reopen it in order for your new font to populate into Design Space. Once you're back in Design Space, go to My Stuff and open up the birthday banner and click Customize. From here, we're going to be able to choose that new font. So I'm going to select this, go to my fonts, and you'll notice that if I go to my system fonts, you should have your new font right here, Angela Flower, and you can select that. So I'm going to use that one instead of the berry one. I don't know. I just thought this one was a little more fun, a little different, just something to play with. Plus, I wanted to show you how to install the fonts or download them. Now, we are going to need to place our letters separately for a few of the letters, and that's totally okay, but I like the way that this one's going to sit together a little bit better than the original one. Now, for this, I do want to create this to be all one piece for now, and you'll see why in a minute, but I also just don't like the visual of the cut lines. It actually won't cut those, but I want to just make sure that those are all combined. So I'm going to go to combine and I'm going to choose unite. And this is for my visuals, just because I can't stand seeing those lines. Just gives me a better look at what I'm looking at here so that I can kind of figure out what it's going to look like. Now I do want to add some birthday candles to the bottom. So I'm going to go to images and I'm going to go and search for candle. And I know they had the perfect one right here. It's like just a perfect little birthday candle. And I want to make sure that the flame is a separate piece. And I hate when it does that, but I want to make sure that the flame is a separate piece from the candle itself, because I want to make the flames with like a metallic cardstock because I think it'll look cool. So I'm going to size this and I'm going to make a few of these. Now you'll notice the Design Space has been a little bit weird. It just wants to kind of lag a little. So I'm going to use a few of these and I'm going to make them different colors. But for now, I'm just going to kind of lay them out. And I'm just going to duplicate. I'm going to make different sizes. I'm going to make different angles, all sorts of things for my candles. They don't have to be exactly perfect, but you can see it's lagging a lot. So it may take a few minutes to kind of get all these laid out. But all I'm doing is duplicating, and then I'm just sort of changing the angles on them. Maybe I want this one more straight. And maybe I'll have this one go over the wording a little bit, but I don't want it to go over it too much. So I can put it like right there. So let me bust out some of these candles, get those kind of all laid out the way I want. And then I'm going to show you how we're going to change up the colors so that you can cut these on like different cardstock. Now that I've kind of laid them out, you'll see I have a few that kind of stick over the bottom. It's fine. Once you actually cut them and make them, it'll be a little bit different. It'll be fun. You can do all sorts of really fun things with this. And I can always add, like maybe if I want to add a little extra candle just in case I lay them out not quite right, I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now again, Cricut Design Space, and it's deep love of messing with my sizing. I'm going to stick one over here just in case, because I do see that that looks a little plain. Now I do think we need to add maybe some stars or some sprinkles or something to like this portion of the design. So I don't know if Design Space is going to have anything under a sprinkle, but let's look. It's probably going to give me like rain, which is not what I want, but let's see if we can find anything under a sprinkle, because I'm looking for something like this. Yeah, like these. So let me stick these on here because these are kind of like exactly what I want. Now I don't necessarily need them quite grouped like that, but I think it'll work. And again, I can change the colors up if I want to get like a more visual sake of it. So what do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I've got 9. So maybe I make enough that we can do all of the rainbow colors too. I don't know. We're going to kind of play with it. I want to duplicate these so that I have enough. Now that'll give us what, 18. So maybe we'll just duplicate them again, and that's just going to give us a few extras to cut out. That way we have enough in the way of like spacing and things and kind of figuring out what we want to do with them. Now look how fun that is. That's just a really fun, simple banner. Now, like I said, we're going to kind of mess with the coloring of this because coloring's kind of weird and wonky. But I do think it'll be really fun. And like I said, I could do some patterned for the candles if I want to, or I could just leave them as is. So there's a lot of ways to do this. But with these banners up here, like I said, I want to do them in a rainbow order. So if I come over here and I go to this banner, you can see that it's grouped. If I use this drop down menu here, I can easily change the colors on these to match the colors that I want them to be. So I want this one to be red, so I just choose red. Then I want this orange one that's going to stay because we're going to do Roy G. Biv. So then we need to change this. And actually, once I do that, it's pretty much right-ish. Ready? Red, orange, yellow, green, blue. I just need to change this guy to pink. So that way I can get a good visual. Now I'm just going to use the light pink on that. And you can see now it's kind of more in a rainbow order on that side. So we can do the same thing over here where we can just use the drop down menu, and you can still also use this material colors thing if you want to like really mess with and make sure everything's the same. But I think if you're changing colors like over here, it's really helpful to just do it on this side because it's easier to see which one you're grabbing. So you can see here, like if I grab purple, I know I need it to be this darker orange. And this again is just for visual sake. You do not have to do this. I'm just doing this so we can get like a good look at what we want it to be. And I'm actually going to change this to more of a bright yellow just so it's easier to see what we're looking at, because that yellow looks very orangey. So I'm just going to use a bright yellow instead, just so it's a little more contrast. So then when I get over here, I want to change this light yellow one. So I'm going to change that one to blue, and we want to use this blue. And then we're going to change the dark orange over to purple. Whoops, not to that to purple. But you can see here now it's got that rainbow look that we were going for. And honestly, we could do the same thing and really carry that rainbow throughout the entire design. So if I go over to this material colors here, let me kind of expand a few things and keep a few things kind of back. What this is here is this is color sync. So let's say I want all of the blues to be the same blue. I can just take the sprinkles and I can just drop them down into the banner. So let's say I got that set of sprinkles, and then let's say maybe we want this set of sprinkles to be green, and then we want to do this set of sprinkles in orange. You can drag them so that they're all going to be the same color. Now again, up to you. Do what you want. I personally am going to want my sprinkles to be like more of the rainbow colors, and I have, 9 sets of them. So what I can do is instead I can go over into my layers panel, and then I can kind of take and expand and hide things to make it easier to access. But you can see we have so many layers. So what I'm going to do is I want to make each of my sprinkles one of the rainbow colors. So I'm going to do red, grab these ones, and we'll do orange, grab these ones, and we'll do yellow, and then we'll grab these ones. Now you're not going to see all the colors because they are layered. So we did what? Yellow. Now we got to do green. We want to do blue. We already have those blue. And then we want to do a set in the purple. And then this set, we can do a set in that light pink. And then maybe we want to do a set in white just to bring some of that white option in. And then this extra set of sprinkles, just choose whichever color you like best out of all of them, I guess, is what I would do. I'm just going to choose that blue. So now when I pull them apart, you'll see we have several choices for our colors, but we have all of the rainbow colors represented. We have red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, and pink. And then I added the white and extra blues. And now we'll be able to spread these out throughout the designs. It's just easier. I know it sounds a little bit confusing, but trust me, it's way easier. So now I'm going to go ahead and just to make my life easier, I'm going to just kind of shrink all these back down. And we're just going to shrink them. So now what I want to do is with these candles, let's say, you know what? I do think I just want to do this really rainbowy. Let's go for it, right? If we go to material colors, you can just drag each of your candle like into that color to make it just easier. So I can go like purple, and we just really need to make sure, each of them is represented. But if you don't want to do it this way, like you want them to be in this specific order, you want your exact way you have these laid out, you don't want to change anything, you would need to select each of your candles, and you would need to pull this, grab the candle here, and then change the color. So this can be a pretty labor-intensive designing choice. If you want to do it this way, you can also just cut them and not care what order they go in. It's really up to you, but I kind of want to put them in the same order. So for me, I'm going to go ahead and figure this out. So I've got red, orange, yellow, green. So this guy's going to be blue, but I need him to be bright blue. So I'm just going to go through and change each of the candle colors. And like I said, this part can be a little bit annoying, but I think it's worth it in the end. So if I go blue, purple, pink, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple. So this should be purple. I might add one more candle just so I have a pink one, just so that's even, but whatever. So let me go through and change all these, and then I will show you what this looks like. Okay, I've got this pretty much laid out. Now I do think I want to reduce the size of some of these candles just a little bit, just because I think that the birthday's a little bit hidden. So I'm going to reduce the size of just a couple of them, and that should be fine. I'm going to make this pink one bigger since he's on the end, not that big, but I'm going to make him a little bit bigger. So now I've kind of got the look I'm going for. I might, again, adjust a few things here and there as I'm kind of laying stuff out, as you're sort of seeing how everything's looking. Maybe you don't like how big this gap is here, so maybe we're going to take this guy, move him over. Whatever it may be, you can kind of mess with this. But I do want to remind you to make sure you save this as you're working, just so that it's not going to explode in your face, because Design Space likes to do that. Now, I want to be honest with you. While I was making this and designing this, I ended up at the Dollar Tree and I found a better deal on papers. So my paper is actually going to be 30 inches versus this 17. So I'm going to zoom back out. And to size this for the paper that I'm going to be using, I'm going to go ahead and select everything. And for this, I want to make sure that I'm using this height option here. And I'm going to make this 30 inches. It's going to be really big because it's going to be 30 by almost 50, but whatever. I still think it's going to look really cool. So I think we're going to go with that. Now, I will say this isn't quite exact because you'll notice that these little candles are sticking out from the bottom. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select the square itself, and I'm going to make sure that this square itself becomes 30 inches high. That's just going to help me kind of size everything, but I think everything will be fine once I get it all kind of where I want it. The candles will sit a little bit lower. I am going to adjust these banners though, because they're not quite right. I want them to be as long as the paper, so I do need to make those a little bit bigger. But I think everything else, as far as sizing is concerned, is going to be just fine. The candles, again, I'll just scooch them down in the paper a little bit, and it's totally fine. So what I need to do now is to make it so that these items will cut on paper. Keeping in mind that you may be limited to your paper sizes and things like that. I know you can't always find all paper in a 12 by 24 inch version, especially if you're using a lot of colors. So most of my paper is going to be everything from a letter size of an 8.5 by 11 to a 12 by 12 sheet. So what we'll need to do is do some slicing and figuring out what actually needs cut down for this in order to make this work and fit correctly. So there's a few things that I know are absolutely not going to need to be changed or cut down, and that's things like the candles. Those should be pretty okay. You can always just double check if you want to pull that up and then see what size just your candle stem is, like the wax part versus with the flame. But all the candles are pretty much, that's the biggest one we have, and he's 10 inches, so he'll fit, and same with the sprinkles. So what I want to do, because I'm going to make this just a little bit easier for me personally to figure out, I'm going to hide the pieces that I know are going to fit just fine on the paper that we have. So we know that all of the candles will fit fine. We also know that the paper itself, we're not cutting that with the Cricut, so we can hide that too to help us just visualize if we want to. And you'll see why in a second, because it's going to make it a little bit easier to do these next steps. Now, like with the banner here, those little flags are going to fit perfectly fine. But where we're going to run into a little bit of the issue is the back black piece that they're going to sit on. So we'll adjust those as well. But the first thing we'll do is we're going to go first with this happy birthday. Now you're going to see that the happy birthday is 33 inches by 9.5 inches or so. So it's really, really big, and that's going to be way too big to cut. Now I have 12 by 12 sheets of cardstock that I can use for this. And let me change the background color for you just so you can see a little bit better with the white. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a shape. Now, keeping in mind that with the square, you can only really cut 11.5 by 11.5. So I'm going to make an 11.5 inch square, and I'm going to duplicate this a couple times just so we have a few of them to work with. If you've ever done a larger than that project, then you know what's coming. We're going to slice all of these pieces apart to create parts that we can cut with our design. Now, it can be a little hard to tell kind of where your birthday is sitting on the cardstock. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on this, and then I want to arrange it, and I want to bring this to the front just so it sits in front of the black square. Now, just like when I do any of these other larger than that projects, I want to make sure I'm not cutting apart a piece like the stem of the D or something. So I do just try to make it so that it comes in between letters. What you're going to do is you're going to select the square and the word, and you're going to go down and you're going to choose slice. Now with the slice option, you're going to get rid of the black pieces and you're going to keep the white. You'll see you have a black piece and a white piece. You're going to want to keep the white. Now we're going to keep doing that all the way down. Now again, remembering I don't want to cut apart like the T. I don't want to cut that in half. So I'm going to have it cut just between the T and the H. Go ahead, select both pieces, choose slice. Now, yes, that's going to be a little bit smaller than the page, but I'd rather it be a little bit smaller than cut things in half. Now you can see here that I can fit the IR, but the B is going to be a little bit off. So I'm going to separate those by selecting both of them. I don't want to select the happy. I just want to select the square and BR, and then you're going to slice. So now you have the IRT, and you're going to have this B here. Now we did cut a little bit of the heart off. I'm not really worried about that. I'll just contour it out. Nobody's going to notice it. It was just the edge, so it's fine. But there's our birthday all cut into pieces so that we can fit it. Now we need to do the same thing here for happy. So I know I'm going to cut the H separately anyways, so we can just start by slicing the H out. And that way we can just cut that separately. We already know that that'll fit fine. Now with this one, we've got the PPY right here, the PY and the AP, those will be fine separated because you can see they're not going to fit on one sheet. So I'm just going to kind of line this up so that it's not cutting off any of that P, and I might just move it over just a touch. I'm using my keyboard to scooch that over just a little, and then I'm going to go ahead and slice. Now again, we'll go ahead and delete anything that's the black pieces, and that is all going to fit beautifully onto some cardstock. The next thing that we'll do is these banners. Now, keeping in mind that obviously they are grouped, so we're going to need to ungroup them, and I'm just going to move all of these little colors off. And what else I want to do is I'm going to take and fill the triangles in. It's just going to be easier to line it up that way so that I have like a solid piece. So I'm going to go to contour, and I'm just going to choose hide all contours, click apply. Now it makes it solid, so it's going to be easier for us to put those squares or the triangles into the space. I'm going to change the color of this just so that we can see it against the black banner. And again, I'm going to right click on the banner. I'm going to arrange it and bring it to the front. Now with this one, again, I want to try not to cut like the triangles off too much. So I'm just going to do it like that. I'm going to choose slice. I'm going to have one banner here, and then this one, it's still a little bit too big, which is fine. We can slice it again, and you may want to angle this. It may help you if you need to or whatever you want to do, but since it's not like huge, I think we'll be able to just slice it into parts. Now, again, we've got part of our banner. We've got all of our banner pieces, and good to go. Now, can we just duplicate this banner? Sure can. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to delete this one, and I'm just going to go ahead and duplicate this. So we have two, and then I'm going to just duplicate these so that we have all of those pieces that we need. So now all the big stuff should be sliced apart, and I'm going to go ahead and just get rid of the boxes. Now you'll want to bring all of your other pieces back in because we're going to get ready to cut these out with the Cricut, and we're just going to be using a bunch of different cardstock, some cool different finishes of cardstock. Like I said, I want to use some of the gold for the candle flames, which I think will look really cool. So now we've got everything back into place. I know it looks kind of cuckoo crazy. I want you to make sure that you save your design, click save, and we're going to go ahead and get ready to cut this out. Now, you're cutting this on cardstock. You don't really need to do anything crazy special here. You don't need to like group or anything. And I'm going to show you what it's going to look like on your make screen. You're going to have a lot of colors of items. Now, I have my Explore 5 selected, and if you have one of the machines that does off matte cutting, for this, you want to make sure you choose on matte, and I'm going to go ahead and click confirm. These are our candle flames, this gray color, and then you'll see here that we have our pieces of our happy. We've got the sprinkles. Now, these are going to be a pain because they are kind of cutting everywhere. I'm not too worried about them though, but you'll see you've got a lot of white cardstock that we're going to need to cut out. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pieces of white cardstock. Then we've got the pink. Now with these, I can move these to that other sheet. So I'm going to right click move object, and I'm going to select the first pink sheet here and click confirm. And you'll see that you can just place these in between the sprinkles. So you can do that for both of those. You've got your orange pieces. Again, you can move things around here so that you're not taking up quite so much space because the sprinkles are going to be coming apart anyways. Then we have all of our banner pieces. You've got some green. Again, you can move these over. Same with the blue. You can move things so that you're taking up less blue. And then we could probably move these sprinkles over. If I choose move object, take it to the blue, click confirm. And then you can kind of turn these or put them wherever you need them to be so that they're not taking up so much space. But it's going to save you a little bit of space with your cardstock. And again, you can move these around. Same with the red, you can definitely move things around. So you do have quite a few pages to cut, but don't worry, this is a super fun one to do. Now I'm going to get all of my cardstock gathered up, get ready to cut it. Also keeping in mind that maybe like with this one, I know that this one is an 8.5 by 11 sheet that I have because I'm using that metallic. You want to make sure you change your material size so it'll fit them all for you. So I'm going to change it to an 8.5 by 11 letter. And you can see now that it's fit it all in. Most of these other ones I should have in the larger size. If not, I'll use a smaller size, but for the most part, these should be fine on a 12 by 12 sheet. But again, if you need to change material size, make sure you do that so it cuts everything evenly. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get these cut out.
I've got our banner all set up. I just put it up with some painter's tape. Now this is cut a little bit larger than I actually need it, and that's okay. We'll trim it down before we're done. But what we're gonna do, I have all of my pieces in a little basket, and I'm gonna use just double-sided tape. You could use glue too if you wanted to, but I think for me, double-sided tape is gonna go a little bit quicker. I'm gonna start at the top, and then I'll kind of work my way down. Now, like I said, the candles may not be exactly the way I have them laid out on Cricut Design Space, but that's totally okay. I could also pull it up on my phone and look at what it looks like if I want to do it exactly, but I think this will be fine. Now, I'm going to, of course, speed this up, but I'm going to go ahead and get started, like I said, just using some double-sided tape to put everything together. It should hold up just fine.
So while I put this up, let me just give you a couple of tips I learned along the way. Number one is please do not use the Dollar Tree double-sided tape. The stuff that I stuck on with the Target double-sided tape held up and the Dollar Tree double-sided tape didn't, so that just tells me it's the tape. But also, I want you to just have fun with this. I got a little bit frustrated when I was trying to get everything centered, but honestly, once it's all done, it looks totally fine. And one thing I will say is that because of the fact that this is just supposed to be a fun and whimsical banner, if everything's not 100% centered or perfect, nobody but you is really going to notice. This is just a fun little project. You can make this in so many different ways and for so many different occasions. And if you're like me and can't paint, I think this is a great alternative. Now, again, I would recommend either using tape that is stronger or use glue if possible. And you can always put it flat on a table. I just don't have a big enough space to do that. I love the way this came out. I can't wait to see all the finished stuff, but my camera stopped recording here in a second. So here's what the banner looks like all done. I think it came out super cute. I love it. I think I would add a few more sprinkles maybe, but I think all in all, I really like the way that this came out, even with the struggles with the tape. Now, if you have any questions, please let me know in those comments down below. I want to thank you for sticking with me for such a long tutorial video, but I do hope that you picked up some tips and tricks to making your very own extra large birthday banner, doing cuts that are larger than matte. I want you guys to have a wonderful day, and as always, happy crafting.